Wait a minute. This can't be correct. 1.1 million? That's how much it costs to retire in the US today? Well, unfortunately, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but that is the right number. Now, if this is news to you, I would highly recommend you checking out my other video where I explain where I got that number and also help explain why I think everybody should be an investor. Now, before you rush off and start buying the latest cryptocurrency or the latest cannabis stock, I would highly recommend you learning a thing or two of what to do before you start your investment journey. That's why in this video, I'm going to give you the 4 essential steps of what you should do before you spend a single dollar buying that stock. But make sure you stay to the very end because the very last step is, I believe, the one step that you're going to have the most trouble with. But don't worry, I promise I won't leave you hanging. What is up, everyone? My name is Peter Duan and I'm an ex-Wall Street professional turned investment coach here to help you invest your way to financial freedom. Now, if this is a topic that you will enjoy, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button as I will be doing this type of content on a weekly basis. Let's jump back into the topic at hand, which is what are the 4 steps you should take before you start investing. The first step you should take before you start your investment journey is to set up an emergency fund. My definition of emergency fund is to have enough savings put away where in case you and or your partner or spouse do not have a single dollar coming in, but you're still able to cover 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. The reason why this is really important is because a CNBC report came out January 2020 of this year, reporting that 6 out of 10 Americans cannot afford a $1,000 emergency. Now, this is a very sad statistic, especially considering the fact that the US is the richest country by GDP. Now, I think this is really interesting because this report came out in January 2020, which means this was just before the COVID crisis. And you can really see this playing out since then, because since January 2020, more than 40 million people have applied for unemployment. Now, you definitely don't want to be in that group. Because that exasperates the system and it perpetuates this economic downfall. Then the question begs of where do you put your emergency fund? For most people, they will naturally put it in their national bank account like JP Morgan or Citibank, in which most cases they pay less than 0.1% of interest. However, you and I know better because 0.1% interest does not even cover inflation. So what I personally recommend is going to bankrate.com and they will oftentimes have a whole list of the latest high yield savings account. These high yield savings account can give you roughly 1.5% as of June 2020 on your interest. And the reason why these smaller banks can give you that interest is because they want to take your money and ultimately lend it out at a much higher rate. That's how banks make their money. So in case you want to know what is the step-by-step way of opening up a high-yield savings account and why you want to do it, I'm going to offer a free guide below to show you each and every step. Now, let's move on to step number 2. So now that you have set aside 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses in your emergency fund, it's now time to tackle your debts. Now, I'm not one of those people who think all debts are bad. I personally believe there are such things as good debt versus bad debt. Good debt in my mind are such things as being able to afford a low interest mortgage. The reason why I think that is good is because on the other hand, if you can't be given a mortgage, you would have to buy a house outright, which is very prohibitive for a lot of people. Now, on the other hand, bad debt are such things as credit card debt, which can charge anywhere between 15% to 25% and even higher. Now, I am also not one of those people who think all credit cards are bad. I personally use a credit card every day. And the reason why I do that is because I can collect those points and I don't carry a balance, which means that 15 to 25% interest on credit card does not even apply to me. Now, if you're one of those people who are currently living off of credit cards and want to find a way to get some sort of relief, this is actually a perfect time right now simply due to the COVID crisis. Here is a script that you can use to automatically lower your interest payment. Check this out. Hello, is this Citibank? Yeah, Citibank. Listen, I've been a loyal customer for the last 12 years and your interest on this credit card that you've been giving me is a little high. Is there anything you can do to lower the interest? I would hate for you to lose my business because I do like working with you guys so far.
Yeah, Peter. Yeah, let me see what I can do. Yeah, I can actually lower interest from 20% down to 16%. How does that sound?
Sounds excellent. Boom, that's it. That's as simple as that. Especially, again, during this COVID crisis, a lot of banks are actually not even charging interest for a couple months. So go ahead and give your bank a call, and you can actually end up saving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars just using that very simple script. Now, the third step that you should take before you start investing is set up a short-term priority account. This is an account in which you know you'll be spending some amount of money in the next 1 to 3 years on some upcoming big event. This could be planning for a wedding or planning for that first down payment on your first home. So this is an account in which you know that big amounts of money is going to come out in the next 1 to 3 years, and therefore in case of any emergency, you don't want that to be disturbed. So then this leads to the question of, should you put it into a high yield savings account like I recommended in step number 1, or should you set it aside in what is known as a CD or a certificate of deposit, which is a low interest deposit that you can get from any bank. Now, the argument between these two options is the fact that one option, the high yield savings account, will give you a slightly lower interest rate, but that lower interest rate is only marginal, maybe a difference of 0.2 or 0.3%. However, you can be able to draw from that account at any time. The CD, on the other hand, while it will give you sometimes slightly higher interest rates than that of a high yield savings account, it will lock up your money for a certain period of time. And if you were to have an emergency and try to withdraw that money, you will often be penalized quite a bit. So in my mind, the difference between a CD versus high yield savings account is not that much in regards to how much interest you can earn, but rather it's all about liquidity. So in my preference, I would still go with a high yield savings account. And again, I will put it in the link below on how you can create your high yield savings account step by step down below. But in the meantime, let's move on to the very last step. The fourth and final step you should take before you start investing is actually to learn a little bit about investing. Now, I know that sounds pretty intuitive, but just personally, when I first started investing many years ago, I would always just listen to my friends and family on what was the latest, hottest tip or trend in investing. And often case, these were wrong suggestions as I did lose a lot of money. So in order to avoid my mistakes and to teach you guys what is the best steps to take, I would highly recommend educating yourself on what are the proper ways to think about investing. An example of educating yourself is hitting that like and subscribe button, as I will be doing this every week, or I would actually read a lot of good investment books. So one particular investment book that I would recommend to you is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. The reason why I like this book a lot is because it's written by a Stanford graduate who worked in Silicon Valley. And so he actually knows a lot about how millennials think about money and also how to automate your money as much as possible. Because the number one killer for investment returns is human emotions. And so automation is a very important element of investing your way to financial freedom. Now, just to summarize everything up, the 4 steps you should take before you start your investment journey is 1, set up an emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. 2, pay down your bad debts, which are just your high interest credit card debts. 3, establish a short-term priority account in which you know you'll be spending a good amount of money on any particular big event coming up in the next 1 to 3 years. And finally, educate yourself on how to invest. Well, remember in the very beginning of the video when I said the very last step is probably the hardest step? Well, I want to offer you the opportunity to actually speak with me one-on-one to help you create an investment journey that is tailored towards your specific situation. Now, if that is some interest to you, go ahead and go to my website, www.peterduan.com. Scroll down just before the other video testimonials and hit the schedule your free call today. And I would love to speak with you one-on-one. Now, in the meantime, let me know in the comments below what are some other investment topics that you would like me to cover. And in the meantime, look forward to the next video, which are what are the common mistakes beginner investors make. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll hopefully see you guys around. Take care now.